The cryo lid opened with a sharp hiss. Cold vapor spilled onto the metal floor. Emergency lights blinked in slow red pulses. The station felt wrong. Too quiet. Sergeant Elias Ward stepped out of the chamber. The system display in front of him flickered once. Sentence complete. Time served 30 years. His body was still young. Cryo had preserved him at 27. His reflection in the frosted glass showed the same hard jaw, the same scar under his left eye, the same eyes that had once watched a fleet burn. But the world had moved on. He pulled on a spare uniform from a locker. The fabric was stiff but usable. The cryo bay lights were running on emergency reserves. That meant the main grid was down. He stepped into the corridor. Silence, no patrols, no engineers, no hum of reactor cores. Outpost Kestrel had once guarded the Orion Gate trade route. It had been humanity's shield during the Vorex War. Now it felt like a grave. He walked toward the command deck. Dust floated in thin beams of light. A banner still hung above the bulkhead door. Hold. The line. His jaw tightened. 30 years ago he had sealed himself inside the reactor chamber to stop the Varex from capturing experimental technology. He had overloaded the system to deny them access. The explosion had saved 3,000 crew members. Fleet Command called it reckless. They court-martialed him. They froze him. The war ended 12 years later. No one woke him. He pushed open the command deck door. Dark consoles. Cracked screens. Chairs overturned. A mug sat on the navigation table. Captain Mara, Ilian. He picked it up slowly. She had testified against him. He placed the mug back where it belonged and moved to the main systems console. Auxiliary power still functioned at minimal levels. He rerouted energy into the long-range scanner. No ships. No signals. No active beacons. Outpost Kestrel had been abandoned. He turned to leave, then he heard it. A ring, sharp, metallic. Of place, he froze. Another ring echoed through the corridor. It was coming from the old communications office. The secure line room. No one had used wired handsets in decades. The ring sounded again. He moved quickly down the hall and pushed the door open. The room lights flickered weakly. On the desk sat an ancient handset connected by a coiled cord. It rang. He stared at it for one long breath. Then he picked it up. Silence filled the line. Then a familiar voice spoke. Sergeant Ward. His grip tightened. Captain Mara. Eliane's voice carried static and distance. But it was her. That's not possible, he said. We are not speaking across distance, she replied. We are speaking across time. His pulse slowed instead of rising. He had seen stranger things during the war. Explain. The device you destroyed in the reactor chamber was not just a weapons relay, she said. It was a temporal echo prototype. When the core overloaded, it created a narrow seam. This line exists inside that seam. He remembered the moment. The Varex boarding squad cutting through steel. The countdown. The heat you're calling from 30 years ago, he said. Yes, the Varex are about to breach the reactor level. In minutes. He closed his eyes. So this call exists because of the explosion, yes. And if the explosion never happens, this connection never forms. Silence stretched between them. Why are you calling? He asked. Because there is another way, she said. You know their tactics. You know how they breach. If you guide us, we can stop them without destroying the reactor. He looked around the dead station. If I help you, I erase this version of history. Yes, what changes? Kestrel survives, intact. The coalition never breaks this line. 2 inner colonies remain untouched, and if I refuse, Kestrel falls within the year. Millions die before we stop them. The words settled, heavy in the air. Millions. He had spent 30 years in frozen darkness because he chose to save thousands. Now he was being asked to choose. Again, you testified against me, he said quietly. I did, she replied. Fleet needed someone to blame for classified loss. I believed you would be released. When the war ended, they forgot. Her silence said, enough. Alarms faintly echoed through her side of the line. How long do you have? He asked. 7 minutes. He straightened. Listen carefully. He spoke fast and clear. He described the weak points in the lower sensor grid. The diversion strike at corridor C7. The overheating flaw in Virex plasma cutters after sustained contact. The exact timing of their second push. Reinforce C7 first, he said. Not the reactor door. That is a distraction. Place 2 squads behind coolant exchange delta. Hit them from both sides when they breach. Orders echoed faintly behind her. Voice as she relayed instructions. Remove the temporal device from the core housing immediately, he continued. Isolate it. Do not let it connect to the reactor. Understood. Weapons fire crackled in the background. They are at C7, she said. Hold until their cutters overheat, he replied. Then counter. Seconds passed. Then an explosion. They are falling back, she said, disbelief in her voice. Push them, he said. Do not give them momentum. More distant shouting. More fire than silence. We secured reactor level, she said at last. Heavy resistance, but controlled. Device intact. He let out a slow breath. You changed the outcome, she said. No, he answered. You did. The static grew louder. I think the seam is collapsing, she whispered. That means it worked. There was a long pause. Sergeant, she said softly. I am sorry. He looked at the cracked walls around him. The dust. The emptiness. I know, he replied. The line went dead. The handset grew warm in his hand and dissolved into light. The station trembled. Dust lifted from the floor and flowed backward. Cracks sealed. Broken screens repaired themselves. The fallen chair in the command deck rose upright. The deep hum of engines returned. Voices filled the corridors. He stepped into the hallway. Crew members ran past him. None saw him. He felt light, like a memory fading. Through the open command deck door, he saw Captain Mara Ilian, younger, alive, giving orders with sharp confidence. Kerel was whole. Ships moved outside the viewport. Defense drones glided between moon fragments. The line had held. The pull inside his chest tightened. He understood. This version of him did not belong here. He smiled. Millions would live. His body dissolved into light. 30 years later, on the colony world of Haven, an older man sat on a bench in a quiet park. His hair was grey. His face lined by age earned honestly. A thin scar rested under his left eye. He watched children run beneath. A sky that had never known invasion. He did not remember a frozen chamber. He did not remember an abandoned station. But sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he heard a distant echo. Hold the line. He never knew why the words mattered, but they did, and because of a choice made across time, humanity thrived in peace, never knowing how close it had come to losing everything. Some heroes are remembered in monuments, some are remembered in history books, and some are remembered only by the universe itself. Asterisk.